Are we a progressive community? A rural community? Probably not yet, but we're moving in that direction. This council, I can tell you, is for sure very forward thinking. And as you'll see in my speeches today, we're not talking about today, tomorrow, or next year, or the term of the council, but we're talking about the future, about 2030 and beyond. Everything that we've done from moving forward with recreation and healthcare has all been about the bigger picture in the future. The world is moving quickly, very quickly, as we have seen over the last couple of years. And we need to move as quick or quicker in modernizing processes and policies that we deliver at municipality. And we've had to change, we've had to pivot in the last couple of years. A word that I go to bed and I wake up with, pivot, pivot, pivot. So that's been the name of the game, and we're gonna have to do the same as we move forward. The residents of Goderich want that and need that. We also have to support and encourage business, from small retail businesses to the industrial base of our economy. We need to utilize innovation and technology, as we need to attract newcomers that come to Canada. We need to attract them to Huron County in our home community of Goderich. We need to reach out to the newcomers. We need those people here in Goderich, and we can get them to come here. We need to develop strategies and incentives to even attract that young group of teenagers that left our community last year and next year to seek school or experiences or work. We need to try to attract them back. They are our smartest, our brightest, our energy, and they're very engaging youth. They can do so much for this home community. One, they understand it. Two, they have all the assets, and they have that unbelievable energy. We need to attract them back. We need to put things in place to encourage them. Today, you will see that we are laying the foundation for affordable housing. We also look forward in our thinking about environmental initiatives and to create vibrant public space. As you can see, even with the waterfront that has been created over the last couple of years. It's going to be broken up into a couple of different areas of speeches, and my guests will illustrate on areas where they have the expertise. Play the first video, and then we'll get to introducing our first guest speaker.
I know that these measures are far-reaching. They are exceptional circumstances calling for exceptional measures.
I'll be declaring a state of emergency for the County of Huron.
And the basic principle was shut it down, and shut it down quickly. Well, out of the pandemic came the word pivot. So pivot, pivot, pivot. Every time I went to work or every time I went on Zoom, I give a lot of credit to the staff because they had to pivot with each direction of public health.
Dr. Gill envisions clinics running continuously for the next several months in arenas and community centers across Huron and Perth counties. In Goderich, at its peak, he envisions vaccinating between 1,000 and 1,500 people. Over 30 rail cars and 2 engines came hurtling towards Goderich's harbor out of control after leaving the Goderich grain elevators earlier that afternoon. A tractor-trailer, pickup truck, and historical fishing shanty were all damaged or destroyed by the runaway train, but no one was killed or even injured.
They are determined to get this cleaned up as quickly as possible and get Goderich back to the daily routine.
To the citizens of Goderich, from the healthcare professionals to all the essential workers throughout our community, we've done it all together. Today is Canada Day, and we've been through a lot over the years, but let me tell you, we are strong, we are proud, and we are together. And we are part of Team Canada when it comes to COVID-19. Folks, keep it up. Stay safe, keep your family safe, and let's move forward together.
I pinch myself sometimes because we've done such a great job, and it's been a job of not 1 or 2 or 10 or 100, but thousands. The community came together. We flattened the curve. It is a challenge, and it's going to be a challenge over the summer. I know that, but we're going to do a good job. I know that.
As you can see, of 2 years of being on Zoom and messaging, we didn't have to go out and produce any other videos. We have a full stock of Zoom meetings and stock to create videos. And I thank FauxPop for pulling it all together and bringing that message just to remind us where we've been and the amount of work that we've done as a community. Lots of footage over the last 2 years. And when we talked about Dr. Gill, 1,000 or 1,500, that's a day. That's a day that we did that. And I noticed that there are a few nurses here in the room. So they know how many arms they punched, I guess. Right, Gwen? And so we'll move on now. That's behind us. We've done a great job. We need to recognize it. We don't need to celebrate it. I guess we could, but we're moving on. Right now, my first guest speaker is the director of Lake Huron Coastal Center. But Erinn Lawrie has also been Goderich Town Council's appointee to the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. And of course, she chairs our tourism committee here in Goderich and has brought a lot to us. Erinn, you've got the floor.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Grace, for inviting me to speak this afternoon. It's definitely wonderful to be back in a room full of people, but also very strange. So I found myself a little nervous this morning actually preparing for this. But yes, thank you for having me. My name is Erinn Lawrie, and I'm the chair of the Town of Goderich Environmental Action Committee. And I'm also the executive director of the Lake Huron Coastal Center. And as Mayor Grace said, past board member for the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority and the Maitland Trail Association. So I have a background in environmental science, and I'd like to say I have a passion for shoreline stewardship in particular. And I am also a proud resident and homeowner in the town of Goderich. And I consider myself very fortunate that our mayor and our council provided the opportunity to create a committee that focuses on the environment back in 2019. And we didn't know what challenges we had ahead of us, but despite those challenges in the past few years, the Environmental Action Committee has been working very hard to find ways that we can take action on municipal initiatives that will protect and care for our beautiful local environments and also enhance the lives of the people of Goderich. We know that a healthy environment means a healthier economy, and it means healthier communities for us all. One of the first steps that we took as a committee was to install 6 water filling stations throughout the town. Hopefully some of you had a chance to use them. These stations are an excellent step towards reducing the amount of single-use plastics in our community. These water filling stations are also making it easier for our residents and those visiting Goderich to have access to our town's high-quality drinking water when visiting our public spaces and our beautiful beaches. When I look at our beaches, I see a lot of things. I see carefree summer vacations, I see those show-stopping sunsets, and I see a place where memories are made. But I also see a responsibility. Our town is different than most Ontario towns. As a Great Lakes shoreline community, we hold an enormous responsibility. All of us in this room, every single one of us, we are the keepers of the Great Lakes. We are stewards of 20% of the world's fresh water. I was raised myself on a Great Lake, and I know how easy it is to take it for granted. But the decisions that we make as a community, every single decision we make, and every single positive action we make, those impact the lives of millions of people who live in and rely on the Great Lakes watershed. We're lucky to have the president of the Goderich Port Management Corporation on our committee, Roland, he's here somewhere. And he's been successful in having our port certified as a green marine port. The Green Marine program has us looking at performance indicators like spill prevention and stormwater management, underwater noise reduction, waste management, and the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. This program is helping us to make sure our port is environmentally friendly wherever possible. With plastic pollution, water quality concerns, invasive species, and climate change emerging as some of the most pressing environmental issues of our time, the world is watching us, and we have an opportunity to showcase Goderich as being a leader that's invested in providing a healthy, sustainable environment for the people who live here and the people who visit our town. I'm proud to say that our town is the first in Huron County to add electric vehicles to our fleet, and we now have 3 of them. These vehicles are reducing emissions and saving money on fuel costs. They also mean that we're ahead of the game when it comes to the changes coming to the transportation sector. We've also been able to install 6 electric vehicle charging stations at key locations throughout the town. And Goderich Town Council adopted an amendment to the town's asset management policy that means that we're going to be looking at electric, energy efficient, or alternative fuel sources and making sure those are prioritized when we're replacing vehicles and other equipment. This change in policy demonstrates the municipality's long-term commitment to keeping the environment a top priority and dedication to decreasing the town's overall carbon footprint. Part of this commitment involves joining the Partners for Climate Protection program, which is a network of more than 400 municipalities working to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Our town staff worked very hard to complete the first milestone of that program, which involved building a baseline greenhouse gas inventory for the town and our community. Now we're working on the second milestone, which involves building a climate action plan and setting emission reduction targets for our town. These are just a few of the projects that our Town Council and Environmental Action Committee have been working on over the past 3 years. But we can't do it alone. We need all of you. There's a new global movement to take action against climate change and water quality issues. Water doesn't recognize borders on a map. Partnerships are more important now than ever, as we urgently need to learn to manage our water resources together across municipal, provincial, and international boundaries. As water resources around the globe become more scarce and polluted, I believe that we're at a historical tipping point for water and the environment. Now is the time to act. We have to move to action, but we have to do it together. Now, all of this could be a little bit overwhelming for sure. When I look at all the environmental issues our planet is facing right now, it can be easy to get disheartened. I think, though, that the most important thing to remember is that small steps can add up to a huge cumulative impact. Initiatives don't necessarily need to be big to make a big difference in smaller communities like ours. We can be open to small changes and new ideas. We can make our community more friendly for active transportation, like cycling and walking. We can plant more native species to help pollinators and make our town even more beautiful in the process. We can work together towards reducing our food waste and single-use plastics. We can lead by example. The Environmental Action Committee is looking forward to a successful summer ahead, taking action on environmental issues to make Goderich an even better place to live. On behalf of the Environmental Action Committee, I would like to thank Goderich Town Council and the entire Goderich community for all of your support over the past 3 years. I'm proud to call Goderich my home, and I'm grateful to live in a forward-thinking community that's invested in providing a sustainable, healthy environment for the people who live, work, and play here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Erinn. Very enlightening. So you can see the direction that the town is going on the environmental side of things. And I thank Erinn and that committee for their leadership. There's a number of people on that committee. I can't name them all, but as she indicated, Roland Howe plays a very big role. And so does previous Mayor Schufelt is on that committee. And Mayor Schufelt has been involved in water, from the Great Lakes. He still sits on a few national committees and sit on international boards that looks at water and the Great Lakes. So their expertise, along with Erinn's, is very critical to us. So thank you, Erinn. Our next guest speaker is something that is close to all our hearts, and council has made a commitment to get this right and to get it moving. And our next speaker is Michael Maxwell. He's a leading expert and consultant in social housing, specifically affordable housing, a strong advocate for supportive housing, attainable housing in rural Ontario. Michael, you've got the floor.
Thank you, and I agree with Erinn. It's nerve-wracking being up in front of three-dimensional people again, but I'll do my best and try to hide my nervousness. First of all, thank you to Mayor Grace for inviting me to share some thoughts on affordable housing. When His Worship first asked me to come up and speak today, I got to be honest, it was my first thought was a 10 to 15 minute talk on affordable housing. I don't think I've ever kept it under a half hour, but appreciating that it's a nice day and the bar is open, I'll try to keep it brief. As a bit of a backstory, I want to share a little bit about my history in real estate to lay the groundwork for how I became interested in affordable housing. I grew up in a town not dissimilar to Goderich, a beautiful lakeside town in between Toronto and Kingston, Cobourg, Ontario. Beautiful lake, a great spot to grow up. I left there to go to university in Waterloo, a growth town to say the least at the time when I got there. Let's say 20 years ago. It might be a little bit more. While I was going to university, I noticed something in the housing market. My friends and I were being forced to choose between poor and much less poor of student accommodations. Because of our history and what our parents did in Cobourg, we decided to get into renovating and building some new student housing. We did that for about a decade. And then as we matured and grew older, we recognized the exact same issue in the kind of first-time home buyer market, conventionally townhouses, but in a place like Waterloo Region that was growing so rapidly, condominiums just didn't really exist as an option. We started another company that started building condominiums to target that market where Waterloo was attracting talent to its universities, but then losing it because of lifestyle, housing choices, a whole bunch of other things. The last thing a 24-year-old is probably thinking about when they graduate university is, which house should I buy out in suburbia? Where do I find my spouse and hurry up and settle down and get started with the rest of their life? They're thinking maybe a little differently. We did that for about 10 years. And the reason I highlight that is the lessons we learned from those two very different but important aspects of providing housing is we took some of those lessons and then we focused our attention on affordable housing. This is about 6 or 7 years ago. While we were building condos in Waterloo Region, we noticed that there was a huge and growing gap in hindsight, not as huge as it is now, but it seemed large at the time between affordable housing and market housing. And the demand for affordable housing, or the capacity to build affordable housing and pay for affordable housing, was staying stagnant, but everything else was going up. So that gap was getting larger. We decided to spend some time researching initiatives, programs, financing, construction methodologies, everything we can get our hands on to find out what could be done about it from a private sector point of view. That's how we got into the world, but I'm going to flash forward a little bit, or back up a little bit. From a simple perspective, housing affordability across Goderich, the province, and the country, and the world at large is really tied to supply and demand. We've heard that repeatedly. You've heard that from politicians. You've seen it in the newspaper. You've seen it from the housing advocates, affordable housing advocates, and realtors. It's about supply and demand. Absolutely, that's true. From a more detailed perspective point of view, both supply and demand are driven by just a multitude of other factors. It is not simply we need more supply or we need more demand. It is very nuanced. Demand used to be very closely tied to utility. Pretty simple. A family wanted a house or an apartment to own or rent as shelter, and that was kind of where it ended. Apartment buildings were built by big funds who could manage those things in the long term. This demand has since been augmented by shelter as an investment to gain either rental income, and of course, Goderich, you guys have been in the news quite frequently for, let's call it, short-term rental income, like a lot of beautiful towns, Airbnbs and whatnot. The demand for that has increased, as long as, in hindsight now, appreciation, long-term appreciation, the value of the real estate that's gone up if you've been lucky enough to hold housing. It's been a good investment the last 3 or 4 years, if not the last 10. Low interest rates have also allowed some people to move up the housing continuum to afford larger or lower density houses, creating greater demand in certain segments of the real estate development industry. Houses have become more popular to the dearth of apartments. These low interest rates have also allowed investors to purchase short and long-term rental properties and or speculate in real estate. This just adds to the more fuel to the fire and more demand. In addition, migration patterns within Canada have been skewed, most acutely in the last, call it 2 years. More people are leaving the bigger cities, Toronto, Waterloo, London, Ottawa, for smaller towns and the lifestyles that those attract. Now, I told you I'm a private sector developer, so I'm not always complaining about demand. In fact, I'm almost rarely complaining about demand. It was pretty good to us for the last 10 or 20 years. On the supply side, long development timelines, this is where I rail on, apologies to staff, for the development approvals, and not the municipality by itself. For those of you who don't know much about the industry, Ontario sets policies, then the county, then the town, then the developer can implement them. It is necessary and a lengthy process that many stakeholders are involved in. But the whole process is long. In addition, it's all based on projections, and if those projections are incorrect, you can lead to incorrect or skewed results. This includes everything from population projections to household size, servicing, transportation, desirable and necessary built forms, houses, apartments, how much you need of each. Those are all projections. This is a long way of saying that it's a complicated industry and getting it right is hard at the best of times. Finally, macro factors such as taxation, interest rates, immigration, development finance, education, all of these things also have an impact on supply and demand for housing. This is a long way of saying I think it's been 40 years of policy that have got us here, whether at the federal level, the provincial level, and a whole bunch of other things outside of our control as individuals. Notwithstanding, we are where we are. What we can do now is certain of us can only influence the areas of our own expertise and where we fit in the process. People always kind of think that affordable housing is a foregone conclusion that we want affordable housing. And I think many people would agree with that. I definitely am for one of those. But why? I think it's important to get into the roots of why we want affordable housing. All things being equal across a level playing field, lower costs for housing across the board means more money for other things. It might mean more disposable income for some people. It might mean more money for necessities for others. It might mean saving for a rainy day or the sunny days of retirement. It might mean dipping into your savings early just to put food on the table or shoes on your kids' feet. All things not being equal, having a healthy, affordable housing inventory can and will be a competitive advantage. With the ease of mobility for both employers and employees, a low-cost community can be a factor, a decision-making factor. It is easier and sometimes a necessity for employers to attract talented employees to an area where the cost of living is lower. Waterloo, we dealt with this and we're currently dealing with a lot of time. We're attracting high quality tech talent. We're fighting San Francisco and Toronto. The good news is Waterloo's a heck of a lot cheaper than San Francisco. Luckily, we're catching up to Toronto in terms of cost of living, and I say that tongue in cheek. By itself though, a low cost of living is not enough. There needs to be a high quality of life as well, but that should not apply to just everyone who can afford a 4-bedroom home. The high quality life can and needs to apply to as many residents as possible for a community to grow and thrive. So, how can this be done? This is a complex situation. In hindsight, some policies should have been tweaked sooner and improved over time, others completely reversed. I don't have many of those powers that are required to do that though. We don't have the benefits of a time machine. We can't go back in time. It takes a long, as I mentioned before though, it does take a long time to get buildings built. All the regulations, guidelines, and programs are steps in a process to create housing. Housing is the goal, not a byproduct. Not just the planning and construction takes time though, all the way back to population projections, infrastructure capacity, official plans, zoning bylaws, site plan approvals, and the like. With all of those in mind, it takes a long time to build a pipeline. Even better analogy than a pipeline is a tree. You don't plant a tree when you want shade, you planted it 20 years before you needed the shade. With that in mind, and recognizing that, it's important to always have a pipeline or a forest and keep that pipeline full. Put plans in place now, or yesterday, or May 23rd, to consistently and to develop affordable housing. It will take a long time to meet the current need, let alone the needs of any additional needs. Now, I am not from Goderich. I came from a different beach town. But I have been coming here with my family about a dozen years now in the neighborhood, 2 or 3 times a year to visit, just because the beach is a lot faster than driving through Toronto and getting me back to my hometown. It's a lot more pleasant drive. But it is very similar to Cobourg. And when I was first approached to help with an upcoming affordable housing project by Rob Wood, Rob's here, Rob, by a private sector developer, I gotta tell you, I was pretty excited. Most of the people I get to talk to are not-for-profits and municipalities about providing affordable housing. It is seldom that you get approached by a for-profit developer who just words out of his mouth, you know, how can I help? This whole system is complicated, and it was interesting to be able to come to Goderich and learn about the challenges and responses of a smaller community. At the time, this is about a year ago, I got to tell you, I was floored. And when I was writing this little talk, I was trying to think of a different word than floored because it didn't really seem professional for a mayor's speech. But I couldn't think of another word. Impressed is too light of a word to describe this. I've worked with a lot of municipalities. Goderich has not only been studying the issue of homelessness and affordable for many years, and updates being done annually on the status and progress of what's happening and how, unfortunately, the need is growing. But recognizing that, council has decided to act where it can within its steps in the process. The community improvement plan. So my background is also finance and real estate. The community improvement plan that council adopted recently, I can tell you from a finance point of view, working with the federal government, it has been instrumental in getting projects approved. More municipalities need this type of action as opposed to lip service. I've been a part of engagement groups that spend years studying and developing programs that the town of Goderich, through the leadership of his worship and council, has designed and implemented in months. For the family that's facing monthly increases in pressure on affordable housing, the difference between months and years to get a system implemented is enormous. It is necessary to get things implemented quickly and effectively, but quickly is paramount. So I am thrilled to be part of this affordable housing program that's coming, that's hopefully going to be breaking ground in the fall. Having said that, and reiterating, no group can tackle this problem alone. Not the feds, not the province, not the municipalities, nor the not-for-profits, nor the private sector. This is truly a collaborative approach where it's needed, and the key thing is not to be waiting for someone else to go first. Bringing this back to Goderich again, the leadership that Goderich has shown to do what they can, when they can, and then allow others to move forward is paramount. Goderich's leadership in this program and this mandate should be reviewed and copied by other municipalities in Ontario. I have no knowledge of what Alberta is doing. Now, I have no idea if I'm getting close. I don't hear music, so I want to share one anecdotal story. I've been a real estate developer my entire adult life. I have heard parents relieved when their university-bound daughter had a clean, new, safe spot to move into her first time away from home. I have seen the pride, you'll see why in a second. I have seen pride when a first-time home buyer moves into their first condominium with their recently, again, didn't know the right word here, acquired fiance. If someone has a better word than acquiring a fiance, I am open to it. I tried for found, but acquired might not be the right word, but when you find that right person, they moved into their first one, a condominium we built for them. I've seen a 57-year-old grandmother cry when she moved into her new apartment that didn't make her choose between rent and a birthday present for her new granddaughter. Housing matters, and it matters to all of us. It's challenging to build, it's hard, trust me. But we need more, and we need more now than in recent memory. It will take commitment and action from all players to make that happen. So again, thank you, Your Worship, for allowing me to share my thoughts today. I normally don't get this choked up on it, but the 57-year-old grandma happened about a month ago. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is affordable housing is the elephant in the room in the last couple of years, and Goderich Town Council has taken that on wholeheartedly. And I'd just like to say thank you. As long as you're saying positive things about the leadership and about council and about Goderich, you can stand up here for the next 25 minutes and I'll sit down. So, but thank you very much. And the last video that I showed, right at the very end of it, I didn't recognize it. I forgot, as they say. And that was last night. You seen that little brochure about the barbecue for the volunteers. We had over 200 volunteers for the vaccination hub out at both arenas for months. And it's the volunteers, the very fabric of our community and the backbone of rural Ontario is volunteers. And we had them out for a barbecue last night at Lions Park. And the warden was there and various other speakers, and Dr. Clausen, who we all have met via Zoom or via messaging. She was and is the director of health for here in Perth. To say thank you to all those volunteers meant a lot. And I think, that's what that was about last night, and it was a huge success. So thanks for all the volunteers. And I think we're gonna go ahead and start this other video. And then I'm gonna come back and talk for 3 hours.
Growth is good for every community, and we will grow as a more diverse community. And it will be an exciting future and a positive future. Goderich's future is very bright, but we must grow with purpose and balance. It's a wonderful thing that we have a community that is prosperous and growing each and every day. The public, in order for this to work, need to be part of the process.
Mayor Grace has said repeatedly that growth and prosperity anywhere in Huron County is good for Goderich, and growth in Goderich is great for the neighboring municipalities. He says that the world is too small for one community to stand alone. We need to work together for the benefit of the greater community.
We know that we have a real pent-up demand for a higher end housing, but our biggest threat right now is that attainable housing or affordable housing for people that need to come here to work, whether it's your first job or your first house. Gain some revenue so we can keep on investing into the waterfront itself. As you know, every time you turn on the computer or the TV, it's climate change. It's a struggling environment. It's the results of years of maybe mismanaging or not understanding what the environment has to offer us and how we need to take care of it. We seem to be in an environmental tsunami of challenges with lots of small and large issues. Today, we are inundated with climate change news from around the world, be it floods, forest fires, extreme weather conditions, heat waves, and even tornadoes right here in Goderich and the surrounding area. We all need to step up. It's no longer good enough just to change the light bulbs. Let's move Goderich progressively forward on a stronger environmental path. We can, we should, and we will make a difference collectively together. The strength of the local economy is within our boundaries. Business and local government need to be on the same page, working collaboratively together each and every day. It's a priority in the marketing of our community for the attraction of skilled labor, growing a welcoming and inclusive community through diversity. We have a great social infrastructure, from healthcare, schools, a library, recreational and leisure facilities, to the natural beauty of rural Ontario, its peoples and its lifestyles. The assets are here, so let's continue to build that strong rural economy. Because as I've said before, if there is success in Clinton or Exeter or Seaford, there's success in Goderich.
Thank you, but you can definitely see all the footage that we've created over the last couple years. But one of the things that we did create, and we're looking at it today as we eat our lunch, is our waterfront. What do you think? It's absolutely spectacular. Did we ever dream that it would turn out this good when we started 3 years ago? And it's been built through COVID. Few challenges, but we've done it. Roger Brooks, a tourism guru of North America, said it's absolutely amazing. It is a destination choice for Huron County, and they did it first class. Ladies and gentlemen, the priority of this council 4 years ago was to deliver a made in Goderich waterfront visioned by the community of Goderich and Goderich Town Council and staff and all the contractors delivered that dream. And as I said before, they delivered it through challenging times, through COVID-19. We never hesitated. Did we debate? Absolutely. But we kept our promise. We stayed the course, never lost focus of the goals and the objectives of the waterfront and its redevelopment. We also created a sustainable funding model through paid parking, renegotiating our harbor leases, renegotiating our share that is given directly, specifically to the waterfront from the harbor users. So it's sustainable, it's paid for, and it's not being paid for the ongoing cost and more development by the tax base, but by the funds that we've developed and the models to raise the money. Over the last 4 years, we've also determined that we really must help our local economy by helping our local charities, service clubs, and different initiatives to build the tourism sector of our economy, and that is grants for groups. Goderich Town Council granted over $500,000 to all these groups over the last 4 years. From pickleball to Young Canada Week to the Celtic Festival,